Fantastic. So today I wanted to kind of go over doing supplementing CO2 in the garden, kind of seeing what it does, getting into depth about how it actually affects the garden, having supplemented CO2 inside of it. What kind of conditions are we looking for to do such a thing? And all that kind of good stuff we're going to get into with CO2. I hope I can learn something. I hope you guys can learn something. And I hope we all have a great time. So let's just kind of get into this here. All right. Supplementing for cannabis. So during the germination and seedling phase, avoid supplementing CO2 because it would not actually have an effect. Once these crops perform photosynthesis, you can start introducing the gas. Ideally, use CO2 for cannabis during the vegetative and flower stages. So I'm in the vegetative stage right now. I'm looking actually into supplementing CO2 in that garden just so everything can have its own little ecosystem in there and I'm not actually starving them of CO2 because I do not have any ventilation really in that grow space. I don't have any way for more fresh CO2 to get in there at the moment. So that is going to be something that is very crucial for what I'm going to be doing. All right, so vegetative stage. During this developmental stage, the plant starts using water, sunlight, CO2, and CO2 for the cannabis to photosynthesize. It's the stage where crop develops the most and needs additional nutrients and care and training. The vegetative stage is crucial for producing healthy quality buds. Many growers opt to extend this phase to improve their yield when introducing CO2 during the veg stage. It allows crops to grow stronger and faster, which is exactly what we're going for. Not necessarily the faster aspect. I just want them to grow at the rate they're supposed to. They would be growing faster than they currently are, but I want to get them to a good baseline of where they would be if they actually had circulation in there. I feel like that even would be a huge step up. And if you need circulation, or if you have circulation in your garden, you most likely don't need to supplement with CO2, but I'm sure we'll get into that because you're constantly moving the air around and you're getting fresh air inside that garden that is ideally saturated with CO2. Especially if you do it in a living space where you and maybe your family live, you guys exhaling CO2, and if you have pets, that's all going to add up into it. So I'm not sure what the ppm or whatever it is in there, however they measure it. I'm not sure what that level is, but it's probably pretty low. Growing marijuana in CO2 or with CO2 often means you don't need to support the branches as they have enough strength. The buds are also typically healthier and denser, which I did not actually know that it would do that much for the plant. I just thought it would be a good thing to do in general, is have enough CO2 in your room. Do you want to know how to make buds bigger during flowering? Add a dose of carbon dioxide. While growers agree that you must maintain the CO2 levels during the flower stage, they disagree about the duration. Some insist on limiting the supplementation to the early weeks only. Others use natural gas right up to 2 weeks before harvest. What's up, brother? How's it going in this? By the way, you have been going off on my comment sections and all that stuff. I really appreciate the interaction. It's good to see you, man. I'm glad you could join it. Today we're talking about CO2 and supplementing it in the garden. How do people do it? How do they apply it? How does it affect your garden? And what levels should we be at? All that good stuff. So we're in it, man. We're in it to win it. And I don't think I've ever heard of anyone cutting it off 2 weeks before harvest. And I don't I've never heard of anyone insisting on limiting it to starting at the early weeks of flower. So I assume what they would do is start when the buds start to grow so they could get the maximum like yield out of it. And that's kind of the idea behind it. They skip the stretch because maybe the stretch would seem too much of a hassle if they went with that. But what do you guys what are you guys' feelings about supplementing CO2? Do you do it? Are you currently doing it? How have you done it? How have you heard people doing it? Would be very good to know because I'm very interested in how people apply it because I'm just going to get an exhale bag, place it in there, and it's just going to do its thing for 6 months. That's my plan. How much does CO2 actually increase yield? One of the main goals of cultivating marijuana is producing massive yields of exponential quality. Using CO2 for indoor growing helps you achieve this. Some growers report up to a 20% increase. This is important to understand that the carbon dioxide isn't a standalone factor. Other environmental conditions play a vital role in producing fat-potent buds, like nutrients and the water and the training and the light and the wind all play a critical role when it comes to your actual yield. But CO2 having a 20% increase, that's pretty huge. Aspects like strain genetics, grow medium, training techniques all influence exactly how much they yield. The yield increases if any other factors aren't employed effectively. Providing your marijuana plant with CO2 won't make much of a difference. So yeah, once you get past everything that comes with actually growing, and maybe you have a couple grows under your belt, maybe looking into CO2 would be something to look into if you have your watering down, if you know what nutrients you're giving your plant and how much you need to give them, if you have a good growing medium. And it seems like hydroponics would be a great setup. We were talking about that on a live stream and my brain instantly went to, well, if I wanted that to be better, I would go with Emo Metal 59. Yo, what's up? How's it going? Good to see you. Glad you could make the live stream. I do think that supplementing CO2 would be great paired with a hydroponic system. I think that would be fantastic because the plants grow faster, they allegedly grow stronger, and if they are growing also faster and stronger with CO2, that might be the 1-2 punch combo, but that's going to be a project for another year. CO2 versus no CO2 growth. Using CO2 in your grow area accelerates the growth of your plants. It optimizes 3 main life processes that allow the plant to develop quicker during the vegetative stage. If you don't use CO2 for cannabis cultivation, you should produce successful yields, but you may notice a quality and quantity difference. And by the way, if you guys are getting fucking value out of this live stream, go ahead and leave a like. I really appreciate it. Doing good here, just playing the Texas Chainsaw Massacre game. God damn, that sounds fucking crazy violent. Are you just playing this in the background and learning about marijuana in Texas? I don't even think you're allowed to have marijuana in Texas. But I also don't know. Maybe I should talk about that on a stream. How much CO2 is needed? The ideal amount of CO2 for cannabis varies according to the type of lights you use. The range is from 400 to 1500 ppm. So it is ppm. Oh, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre game is sick. Well, I'm glad you enjoy it. I've never actually heard of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre game. I'll have to check it out. What's it on? Is it on like PlayStation or something wacky, or is it on just PC? Anything above 2000 ppm is harmful to both the grower and the crops. The table below displays the approximate quantities of CO2 in the relation to the light intensity measured in lumens per square meter. So we're going to go into that. So it's light intensity in lumens per square meter, and then approximate CO2 ppm is going to be on the right. So for light intensity, we have 200 to 450 is 400 for CO2. From 400 to 800 lumens per square meter it's 800 ppm. It's all game system. Oh, it's for all game systems. Okay. 800 to 1,000 lumens per square meter comes out to 1,200 to 1,400 ppm per CO2. 1,000 to 1,400 lumens per square meter comes out to 1,400 to 1,500 CO2 ppm. So that's going to be our optimal ranges that we're looking at when it comes to CO2 parts per million and our grow spaces. How to add CO2 to your cannabis plants. You have multiple options when you decide to incorporate CO2 for indoor growing. The three most common choices are generators, tanks, and bottled CO2. There are also alternative methods that are more organic, but not necessarily as effective, which we don't need to go for the biggest, craziest thing. Without CO2, it's easier to get light stress. That is a fair point. I don't have CO2 in my garden, and I'm experiencing light stress. I'm having to dim my lights extremely low. I've noticed the plants are doing okay overall. I just posted pictures on X if you guys want to see an update on those. I just posted those just now from pictures I took just now. So if you guys want to see how those are looking, go over to my X. But for now, we're talking about this. And I do plan on ordering that exhale bag today, and it should get here tomorrow, and I can set it up, and hopefully we can boost that light up, boost that CO2 up, and just have things going a lot smoother from this point all the way into harvest. Each of these has their advantages and disadvantages. Some are subtle for a grow tent setup, whereas the other require a larger growing area to work effectively. Let's take a closer look at each option. My Sourhead strain was very light sensitive. Raspberry Ripples not as much. Yeah, some strains are going to be less affected by the light than others. It's very cultivar specific and all that good stuff. It's crazy nowadays how much genetics can just vary with how they react to this stuff. And I think that makes for a more interesting conversation personally when it comes to talking about the strains, because you can also talk about how this one differs and needed less of this and more of that, or less of everything, and one needed more of everything, but they both grew nearly identically, and it's very strange. But it's very cool how each pheno has its own personality. It's just also a pain in the ass sometimes. CO2 generators is the first thing we're going to be looking into. Using a carbon dioxide generator to provide CO2 for cannabis crops is straightforward. These tools have an integrated timer and automated use. They burn natural gas, propane, and turn it off when they reach the ideal ppm levels. This method is suited for large grow areas. The machine produces heat and carbon monoxide. We don't recommend this for use inside a home as it can be dangerous. So CO2 generator, automatically out. Do you run 24-hour lights in veg? I run 18/6. Personally, I believe that the plants need a rest time. I think it's a good recovery period for them. When they're going through during the day and doing their photosynthesis, that takes up a lot of energy, and I do believe that everyone and even plants need time to sleep and recover, and it's just more natural in my opinion. And if you can get a little bit more natural with your light, I say all the better. I mean, it's a little bit crazy when you get into thinking you need to dim up your light over a period of time to simulate a sunrise, or dim it down to simulate a sunset. Some people do that, and then there's also 24 hours, which I think is effing crazy. But if you go back and look at my grows that I did with my dad, he did 24-hour veg lights. I wasn't exactly the biggest fan, but I also wasn't paying a lot of the electricity, so it didn't matter to me too much. I feel like you're less likely to get light stress going 18.6 simply because you have more wiggle room. That's true. You also get the more potential lumens per day. You can also have that rest period to recover from the light stress potentially and have it backpedal, maybe. But yeah, it seems like it would be a lot less stressful for a plant to actually have a rest period, in my opinion, and not just in the flower stage. Many domestic growers claim that these tanks, so we're going with compressed CO2 tanks. So many domestic growers claim that these tanks are ideal for providing CO2 for cannabis in smaller spaces. They don't produce heat, but require some elbow grease to use. You can also purchase special equipment and automate the use. This method is simple to apply, and you can control the ppm levels with a regulator. I use a smaller 100-watt LED for veg, and even going from 50 to 100 jumps the par from 200 to 400 ppfd. That's pretty nutty, man. That's pretty nutty. But yeah, the LEDs, man, they're just super strong. They're super intense these days. I don't think I'm going to go with the suppressed CO2 tank at any point. Bottled CO2, probably not. Bottled CO2 is great one-off option. These products are easily to use, offer a slow release of natural gas into your grow area. It provides CO2 for cannabis for at least 5 to 7 days before replacing it. So this is just a really short-term option. It looks like you're looking at about a week. And if you have to buy fucking, what, that would be 16 bottles of this if you're going through a 2-month veg and then a 2-month flowering. You'd have to buy 16 bottles, replace them every week, and maybe come out with something of quality at the end. Compost. In smaller grow areas, adding compost to the soil produces CO2 for marijuana. It's organic and doesn't pose a safety hazard, but it can attract bugs or mold into your garden. So compost, if I wanted to do indoor organics, I suppose that could be an interesting idea to play around with, but I don't think that that's something that I'm going to be looking to, especially for this run. Now, CO2 bags is what looks like I'm going to be going into. The option of producing or introducing CO2 to your marijuana crops is best suited for intermediate and advanced growers. They typically contain fungi or organic matter that produces natural gas. The ideal quantity is 4 bags every 2 meters squared. And the bags I'm looking at are for a 4x4 space, so I have a similar size when it comes to dimensions. I don't know what height they're playing with, but I'm gonna assume I'll be good. I'll assume I'm gonna be good. Dry ice is the solid form of carbon dioxide. It's a great short-term option, but can get pricey when used over an extended period. So I would say that if you're looking to go with CO2, bottled CO2 and dry ice are automatically out. It'll save you a little cash too, just because with the tanks you gotta buy flow valves and the meters and all those goodies too. That's true. Are you talking about growing with the CO2 bags? Because I'm all for that. I'm jumping around a little bit here. The CO2 generator, I don't grow in a large space, and the compressed CO2 tanks also doesn't seem any kind of appealing way to me. But it is interesting to see how many different ways there is to supplement CO2 in your garden. Yeah, I think the bags would be best for your space. That's what I was thinking too when I was looking into my options. I don't think burning a tank in there or doing a slow release type thing would be a ideal way to go about it. Can you close that closet off. So I can't close it off any more than it already is. So I have ceiling in the door frame, and then I also have a towel underneath the door to try to give it a little bit of insulation. But as far as like closing it off and having it being a sealed grow space, I'm about as far as I can get with that. So I will be able to harbor a good environment in there. Even if a little bit of CO2 leaks out, it still lasts just as long. It's not like I'm going to have it go from lasting 6 months all the way to lasting like 2 months or something like that, because it's going to be producing still. It's just not as much of it is going to go into the plants, if that makes any sense. And I don't see that as a crazy waste, because if I get all the time out of it and I get a quality harvest and the plants accelerate their growth and they're stronger and healthier than they are now, then I see it as a win. I try to look at the positive side of things. And for this grow bag, it's $54 of an investment for 6 months. That's like a couple cents a day. So I'm not too worried about that, if we're being super technical. So keep it sealed. Investing in CO2 for growing marijuana can be costly. To ensure there is an appropriate return, seal your garden completely, which is right here in the article. Regular air only contains carbon dioxide, roughly 400 ppm, where if you mix it with your CO2 for cannabis, it would dilute it. Huh. I mean, yeah, but how much would it really dilute it? Because there's not a lot of airflow through there. And I have good wind circulation in there, so I feel like I'd still be doing pretty good. Use a top-down approach. I plan on hanging it from the shelf up in there, so I got that. But top-down approach, CO2 is heavier than most atmospheric gases, and it sinks quickly. Ensure that your plants benefit from the exposure to the gas by locating your marijuana CO2 higher than the crops. Another way to lift the gas is by using a fan, keeping the airflow throughout the room. The best approach is to let it rain down from above. Well, when the CO2 mixes with the natural air, it probably weighs less or more and drafts. Weighs. Wow, okay. Well, when the CO2 mixes with the natural air, it probably weighs less or more and drafts. I don't know what to make of that comment, I'm going to be honest. I don't know if I'm high or if I'm just not reading your interpreting it properly. It drafts. I mean, I know it's going to like water down the concentration a little bit, and I do have it pretty sealed off, but I can't make that room perfectly sealed. That's not necessarily an option. But I do think we have a good thing going in there. Only provide CO2 during the light cycle, which isn't going to really happen with that bag, because the heavy air sinks, so maybe CO2 in an oxygen-rich room would sink to the bottom and seep out. So the bottom of the room is pretty well sealed. Again, I have that towel down there, and I could stuff a little bit more of the sealer I have on the rest of the door in there, but I think I'm gonna have to play around with that. Yeah, yeah. The towel should help a lot with the actual leakage, because I actually have that in there to keep the heat and the humidity in. I didn't want too much airflow, but I feel like if I added a little bit more of sealing in there, I feel like I could get a little bit closer to what we're actually going to be going for. Try a CO2. Justic Mick? Is it Mick or is it Mike? You could get the door snake from Amazon if the towel doesn't work for whatever reason. Door snake? Never heard of that shit. Door snake. They need to teach about this stuff at school, man. Oh, yeah. No, I see what you're doing here. All right, I might do that anyway. This towel's kind of ghetto anyway. I don't need that. I don't need that towel. Who needs towels? So, Justic, I don't know if you didn't finish your like message and you were going to type something else, but we are talking about trying CO2, and the reason we're talking about supplementing CO2. Try CO2 monitor. I've noticed no increase with a bag, but it works by in there rows the CO2 levels. There. Try CO2 monitor. CO2 monitor. So like just to test the levels and see where I'm sitting at, is that kind of what you're going on? Working in and there my breath rose CO2. Yeah, exhaling CO2 can definitely do a lot for your grow rooms here. CO2 meter monitor. How much are these gonna? Whoa, that's a little bit state. It's a little bit state there. So I'm looking at a CO2 monitor, and it comes up with the good stuff. It's $100, man. Man, I was really thinking about going in on those bags. That's a fair point. I am going to need the data. I can't just kind of look at plants and be like, oh yes, they are grow. They done did the growing. Yeah, no, that's not very scientific or better than buying bags. I mean, I guess that's true. If I bought a monitor and I saw what my CO2 level was in there, I could gauge whether I need to supplement CO2 in the first place. I guess I could read reviews on the bags, or I could see if there's something I could do with them before actually going in and buying a bag, because that is kind of that's a little bit of an investment to make for something that allegedly does not work. And I say allegedly just because I haven't tried it. So I would personally have no clue. But here, let's actually just do that right now. Let's look up how many people are actually having trouble with this. Are CO2 bags good for increasing CO2? CO2 bags are simple and cost-effective method for increasing carbon dioxide CO2 level in the grow space, particularly for small space growers and hobbyists. These bags contain a mix of natural ingredients such as fungi, organic matter, and microorganisms which release CO2 into the space, which makes sense, but does it increase my numbers? I'm seeing a lot of resounding yeses, but also I'm sure Google is a little bit biased and showing me biased results based on how I worded my question. I think I'm just going to have to go with... I'm either going to have to say fuck it and buy or spend the $40 and test it in my space, and also get a meter to test whether it's actually increasing, or we could just read reviews, I guess. So we're going to go on to Amazon. This is the exhale bag that I have up here that I planned on purchasing. Let's see. So it has a 3.5 star, or sorry, 3.8 stars, and a, for easy to use, and then value for money, it's a 3-star. So it's not looking super fantastic. We're going to get to the bottom of this. Don't even worry about it. So the customer reviews is a 4.2 out of 5. So that's pretty good. But what are they actually saying? Also, what size is your grow spaces that you're using the CO2 bags in that you've tested it in? Because it's very possible that you could be in too big of a space, and therefore it's not going to do much for increasing your CO2 either. Mr. Growit has a video on where he speaks about supplementing CO2. I'm sure he does, man. He's touched pretty much every topic under the sun. He's been on the platform for a little while. I'll have to check it out, though. Thank you for mentioning that. I'll definitely look up his CO2 supplementation videos. Anthony says, reviewed by, it just says good product. Someone says, Amanda says, my husband uses this product and absolutely loves it. Jason says, my girls absolutely adore it. I assume he's talking about plants. Johnny Montez says, works as expected. That could mean a lot of things. That is very vague. He talks about the bags not being a noticeable increase on readings. That, I'm sure there are a lot of factors that could go into that. I don't want to speculate as to how it just tense. Are you saying I should only use it in tense, or just use tense is what you're advising me to do? Because I would love to. I'm just broke. So I got to use what I got. This product doesn't work. I got this to help with my CO2 for my plants. I was skeptical, all the mixed reviews. Well, mine did not work. How does this company stay in business? That's a fair question. If it doesn't work, how do they stay in business? Is it all placebo? Do they just get it and their plants like just get into the stage where they grow rapidly? Is that what's going on? Or is it just I'm on my second grow using the same grow bag. I'm keeping 1500 ppm in a 5x5 grow tent with 8 small ladies in it. When they get bigger, they use more, so expect to fall a bit. The plants grow. Note 2000 ppm or more is toxic for plants. Now, the bad stuff, I do not notice an effect during my first grow. The bag may have been adding CO2 better near the end of the 90-day grow, but I couldn't tell as I had other CO2 methods in play at the end. That's not good, man. When I put some smaller plants in the tent with my second grow, I have CO2 alerts on my phone with the bags being alone. What I'm saying is it has a long ramp-up time, but the fact that it can set off my alarms alone is impressive. I hope this review helps you. So is the CO2 alarm telling him that the bags are too high? Okay, all I used bags on was tents. How big were the tents? Do you know off the top of your head? Because this guy's saying he is getting good results with a 5x5 after letting the bag warm up for a little while, letting the microbes and the fungi all kind of live for a little while, and it ramps up the CO2 over time. That's what this review is saying, and I'm sure that could actually have an effect. I'd try it, though, honestly. You could make content. You might as well. It could at least be a video. Yeah, it could at least be a video for sure. I do still plan on it, even though it has mixed reviews. Buying a living thing and putting it in your garden, it can take a lot of time to actually have an effect. So maybe these guys are judging it too soon. I don't want to accuse anybody of anything, but it's very possible that there are a lot of other factors that could be at play, some other things going on, and some insufficiencies and possibly communication from the company for advertising this product in the first place and how it works. So there could be a lot of things that are going on. People growing in too big of spaces, people not giving it a chance to actually ramp up before they judge it, people who don't know how to use any of this type of stuff, people who have insufficient growing conditions like we went over earlier. There's a million things that could be going wrong, and then people could blame it on the bag. That's kind of the vibe I get from a lot of things when it comes to the grow space is people will judge things sometimes, not all the time, but people will judge things like a light, and really their problem was that they weren't feeding enough. Or people will blame their water and their feed, but their pot isn't big enough, something like that. Exactly. Yeah. So it can be a lot of things. This product could work perfectly well, but a lot of people could either have the wrong idea about how it works, judge it based on insufficient knowledge, or they could be judging it upon how they expected it to work versus how it actually works. I find myself doing that a lot of the time, and people could just be frustrated and make reviews. Always be looking for your weakest link in the garden. That's my key. That's my key in life. If you want to find how to be your best self, always look for the weakest part of you and try to reinforce it and either take it out and make it something positive or work on it. Make it something you can use to your advantage. The best thing about this CO2 supplements is the packaging. I have a feeling the spores come segregated within the grow bag, so you decide when to introduce them to the bulk of the grow medium. That way you can store them until you are ready to use without losing useful life of the material. Also, the sturdy plastic is better at resisting tears than others. Finally, the grow bag is easy to install with just common hanger and opposed to the others. I have had to retrofit with a tape or ripped plastic clamps special hanger. So this guy's saying it's good and easy to use. That's definitely fair. And right now my weakest link, I think, is my CO2 level. If I'm doing all of my best thinking right now, that's what I have to go with. It worked on my plants, but it also destroyed the floor because the bag leaks. Oh no, no. So I'm giving this a 3 stars because the bag works. My plants were noticeably larger, like way larger. However, I run 2 tents. So I put this bag between the tents on the floor near both intakes so they would both share the CO2. See, that's part of your problem, man. You put it on the fucking floor near your intakes. That's not how you're supposed to do it. Which also worked perfectly fine because the size of the grow room, however... Oh, sorry. I gotta fucking start over. Which also worked perfectly fine because of the size of the grow room. However, the bag leaked from the bottom and a bunch of fungus grew into my carpet. Oh no. Couldn't get it out without hacking the carpet apart. So if the bag works, it works well. If it's faulty, it may do damage to your home by spreading contents around. Dude, that's not their fault. Rob, come on. That's not their fault, and you know it. That's not your fault. Or that's not their fault, sorry. It is 100% your fault. You put fungus on the fucking floor? What did you expect to happen? See, this is exactly what I'm talking about. This is what I talked about just a second ago. What were you thinking? just spend $80 and get 2 grow bags, or just have it in one room. Like, put it in just your flower room and then have your Jesus. Thank you for the 420 special thank you or super chat, Nimbus. I really appreciate it. Congrats on monetization, Cannabis Express 420. And god damn it, it felt so good to finally get there. I've been on this journey for a very, very long time, and to see that I can actually cultivate a group of people who are like-minded and want to learn more about something that I personally find just so beautiful, and I've been passionate about this for so long. It's just an amazing thing. Oh my gosh. But yeah, no, it looks like I'm going to be getting a CO2 exhale bag, and maybe once my tax returns hit, I'll get a CO2 meter. I'll possibly take that bag out to see how it affects the actual room, because I can't imagine the ppm is staying very high with the condition my room is in right now, where it is sealed for the most part. Though I imagine the plants are taking up the CO2, turning all of that into oxygen, and then filling the room with oxygen. But we've been going for 40 minutes. I feel like we've learned a lot. We've looked into what people think about exhale bags. We've saw reviews and how people were using them. We talked about it in the chat. I think it was a very productive stream, and I hope you guys got value out of it. And if you did, please leave a like. Again, it definitely helps the channel. And if you're new to the channel, go ahead and leave a subscribe before you go. I definitely enjoyed having you guys here, and I enjoyed the conversation, and I always love hopping on to do these live streams. And if you guys have any ideas for what we should talk about in the future, definitely leave those in the comment sections of any of my videos or any of my posts. I see every single comment. But until next time, man, I appreciate you guys so much. And again, Nimbus, thank you for the super chat. Definitely appreciate it a lot. But I will see you guys next time. Thank you very much.